My name's Angelo, and welcome to We Want Picks. This is the only channel dedicated to UFC fight picks and DraftKings lineups run by MMA insiders and professional fighters. Every week, I join Dan Kramer and Nick Newell, two longtime professional fighters that have fought at the highest levels on the planet, as well as Jacob Lyons, a skinny kid from Indiana. So join us every single week for our full fight card breakdowns, our individual fight card breakdowns, our betting guide, and our DraftKings lineups. We are a day late. This card had all sorts of issues. Donald Cerrone lost an opponent. We lost the main event. This card's all over the place, but they pieced it back together. So we are 1 day behind on everything because we have to wait for DraftKings and Monkey Knife Fight. But luckily, we've got this unlocked and we are ready to break down UFC Vegas 26 for you. And first up, we have Mike Trizano versus Ľudovít Klein in a pretty interesting fight. So Mike Trizano won the Ultimate Fighter. I imagine nobody watched that season, but he did win the Ultimate Fighter. And Ľudovít Klein is a phenomenal striker and happens to be the most expensive person in DraftKings. Dan, what are your thoughts on this fight? You were on the Ultimate Fighter. You didn't win, but you were on the Ultimate Fighter.
I was just going to say, all these guys on the Ultimate Fighter, they're just not that good, and they never amount to much. Stole my thunder there. No, yeah. Yeah, I was in the Ultimate Fighter. That was a long time ago. But, yeah, no, it was fun. It was it was a weird experience, right? You're locked in a house for 2 months, but we made the best of it. Made some friends, got some great training. Trained with Rampage Jackson, so that kind of started my career off. Anyways, Mike Trizano, 8-1, a plus 205 underdog. So this is going to be an interesting fight. You know, as Angelo said, he was 3-0 in the Ultimate Fighter. He won the season. He's been 1-1. He's 1-1 in the UFC since then, but he hasn't fought in 2 years. Multiple knee surgeries, which is always a little scary. In his last fight, he lost to Grant Dawson via rear naked choke, which is, not a bad loss in resume. Grant Dawson's pretty tough. And he beat Luis Pena before that, a split decision, which is a pretty legit win. So he's definitely had 2 tough fights in his first and second UFC fights. He's a Tiger Schulman's guy. It looks like he did some training at Factory X, but he's definitely a good striker. He's got kind of that karate style, Tiger Schulman's background, very good jab. He definitely obviously had trouble with the takedowns from Dawson. Looked okay defending early, but eventually just got worn down and beat up and submitted in the second. And then we go to Ľudovít Klein. So he's 1-0 in the UFC, 8-fight win streak. Last loss was 2017. So this guy's been on a tear. He beat Shane Yong from City Kickboxing his last fight with a first-round head kick KO. Pretty damn impressive win, especially the way he did it. He's a southpaw. He keeps his hand. He's got that high guard, not like Nick Diaz style, but almost just a little bit more. I don't know, not as Stockton slap stylish. But he keeps a high guard, good boxing, good jab, straight left hand. And he's got this great front kick that he can turn over into a head kick. Very powerful. His last 3 fights were all head kick KOs. So if that doesn't tell you what he's going to try to do when he goes out there, I don't know what does. He wants to kick your head off. So, so the other thing is on him, I broke down 2 fights ago against Nchukwi, the guy he fought. Nchukwi was wrestling from the start. Klein got taken down, but really defended it well, scrambled up, got up a few times. He eventually got taken down, but he definitely made Nchukwi work for it. So it does look like he has some solid takedown defense and scrambling ability. And then 3 fights, a fight before that, he just dominated the striking, more head kicks, knocked the guy out. So all in all, this is going to be an interesting one because it's a striker against a striker. One guy's got the karate background, the Tiger Schulman's background, which I don't care who you are. That's a tough style to deal with. Those guys are very good about keeping their space. They're very good strikers technically. So it could get interesting. I'm going to take Klein. He's been more active. He's He's more powerful. Trizano's coming off a couple knee surgeries. I don't think I'm going to touch this in DraftKings though. For $9,400, something just feels like this could be a more competitive fight than we think, given the both of them being strikers. So I'm going to stay away from this for DraftKings, but I think I'm going to take Klein, and it definitely could get interesting if Klein may need to wrestle a little bit in this fight. Like if he doesn't have that in his back pocket, this just could be a more interesting fight than people think.
You think Mike Trizano's the better striker, so Klein?
No, I don't think he's the better striker. I just think he's not
capable.
Plus 215 striker versus striker. I don't think
he's capable. He's capable.
So it's funny. Like I definitely think it's a little closer than the money said. I think the odds are correct. 2-1 underdog, 2-1 favorite. The dude's coming off 3 head kick knockouts in a row, not 3 knockouts in a row, 3 head kick knockouts in a row. Mike Trizano hasn't fought in 2 years. He hasn't fought the same caliber of person, has half the experience. So I actually think the odds are pretty dead on.
I think they're on, given like all those things you said. For sure, that's what makes the odds. I would say if these guys were both at their best, right? Like let's assume Trizano has no lingering issues from his injury, he has no ring rust. If both of these guys are at their best, striker versus striker, I don't think I think Klein would win still, but I just think it's a closer striking match than people might anticipate.
It could be. Listen, I have Klein in my lineup. I did not want to spend $9,400. That is a lot of money, but I just think this card is tight, man. Like almost every single one of these fights is a pick 'em. And this is one of the few fights where I'm very confident in who's going to win. So if that's the money I have to spend, then that's what I'll spend. Because the way I see this, it's striker versus striker, as you said. I think Ľudovít Klein is the better striker with actual stoppage power. Mike Trizano's a well-rounded guy. I don't think he has the same power as Ľudovít Klein. But to me, the biggest thing is the layoff. And we've seen people do long layoffs, and everybody will say Dominic Cruz, but that's like the anomaly. A 2-year layoff with those severe of injuries, it affects everybody differently. I think those long layoffs affect strikers more than anybody. Because a grappler, you wrestle your entire life. You take 2 years off, you get back to it. You could always lean on that grappling. Like it's in your bones. The striking, the in and out movement, the timing, like that, even if you've done it your whole life, you take 2 years off and you slowly get back into it. Getting that timing back is not.
Timing is tough.
It's not as easy as like getting your timing back with wrestling. It just isn't. You could take a bad shot and get through it and finish it. If you have bad setups and poor timing, it's not going to go well for you. So I think the layoff plus the level of competition, I spent the $9,400. I didn't want to spend that much, but it is a very tight card. And before I go to you, Jacob, the monkey knife fight line, this is an interesting line because this is basically saying they think Ľudovít Klein will either complete one-sided decision or stop Mike Trizano. So if I have to pick this line, I think I'm going to go over on Mike Trizano and under on Ľudovít Klein. I might go over, but I doubt it. I think I'll go over on Mike Trizano because he's not a bum and he will be in this fight for a little bit. And I'll go under on Ľudovít Klein. And if you are looking to play that same line, use the link in the picture and use the promo code WWP, and they will instantly match up to $100. You deposit $100, you will have $200 5 seconds later to play this line and then triple your money when you win. Jacob, who do you have winning this fight, and what do you think of that monkey knife fight line?
Yeah, you guys mentioned the knee injuries. We also have to remember that he was scheduled to fight in February and hurt his ankle. I watched an interview where he talked about it. He said he hurt it bad, like bad. And that was just February. I mean, that wasn't that far away. He basically said, like, if I didn't have an ankle wrap on my ankle, it felt like my ankle was going to be detached. I mean, that's how bad he hurt his ankle just in February. So you mentioned all the time missed. He also missed time just a few months ago. And I agree. This is a striker versus striker. When I look at Klein, the way he used those head kicks, it kind of reminds me of, first it reminded me of Cowboy. I was kind of a combo with the head kick. But the way he's patient and how methodical he is with his strikes, He reminds me of Robert Whitaker, the way it's just like a 1-2 and then that real quick head kick following everything. And I love the way he uses it. So I agree with you, Angelo. I think he's a much better striker. And I agree with this card. This card is a mess, and you got to take the ones where you know that they're, you have a very good shot of winning. So he's also in my lineup at $9,400. I just feel like that's a safe play on this card. And the Monkey Knife fight, I think this could be one of those more and more. I think Klein. I could see Klein outstriking him 2-1 with them both going over right there for the more. So I would take more on both these, I believe.
Yeah, you guys may end up. I mean, the $9,400 may end up being worth it. Like, I think he's going to win the fight. I think it's going to be a total striking match. So he probably will justify the $9,400.
And the crazy part too is Klein. He's 17-2. He's 26 years old, man. It's crazy.
Really?
Yeah. Talent.
I think honestly, both guys might get a bunch of points in this one if Trizano doesn't get sparked with a head kick. But I'm still kind of playing around my lineup as I go. But $9,400, I think I'm going to stay away from.
This was one of and you're going to hear this if you're watching this entire video. You're going to hear it say it a few times. The card is real tricky. And you guys let us know that in the comments that you're looking forward to the video because it is a tricky card. And the lineups are tricky too. Because I did some maneuvering because there's some people I knew I wanted. And $9,400 ate up a good chunk of that budget. Next up at UFC Vegas 26, we have Tafon Nchukwi versus Jung Young Park in striker versus grappler. In giant, scary striker versus incredibly tall, competent grappler. This is tricky. This is really tricky. Jacob, I'll let you go first. We had a sidebar conversation. We went back and forth on this one. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, this is a terrifying fight for Park. I mean, this guy is just a monster. Came down from, I think he used to fight at heavyweight all the time, came all the way down to middleweight. And he's talked about, obviously you look at him, you immediately think he's coming down that much, and with that much muscle mass, you got to think cardio issues. And he admitted early on with that weight cut that he did have cardio issues because he didn't do the weight cut the right way. He hired a professional nutritionist. He did the right way. In his last fight, he won a decision, a 3-round decision, and look good doing it. So he can go the distance. So that's not a huge concern. But it could be in this fight because I think that Park uses his grappling and takes advantage of his grappling. And I think at $7,700, I think there's great value in Park. We have to remember that this guy has the UFC record for ground strikes in a fight at like almost 300 ground strikes. The UFC record, not a middleweight record, the UFC record. So he's going to come out. He's going to grapple. He could still get caught. He also has, if Tafon can stuff some takedowns, Park does have sneaky power, and he does have some good counters, so he can strike. But I think he comes out, he uses grappling and controls this fight. So I think he wins, and I think there could be some good value there at $7,700. He's not my lineup right now, but if something happens with this card, we've already had a bunch of wild stuff happen already, so he could find his way into my lineup, and I like that plus. I think I like that plus 140. He might even make it into one of my parlays with the plus 140. I feel good about it.
This is a tricky one, and Jacob and we went back and forth on this the other day, talking about it. It is tricky. Usually, when there's striker versus grappler, I tend to, especially striker that isn't also competent in grappling. I would not say Tafon Nchukwi is, can't grapple, but it's not. It's definitely not in his back pocket. So just real quick before I forget, I think he said his last fight, they asked him what he weighed in on fight day from 185. He said on fight day he weighed 225 pounds. Yeah, he's a massive human being, and honestly,
40 pounds. He said he put on 40 pounds.
His cardio issues.
Honestly, I don't even think that's possible.
That's what he said.
What he said. Not nowadays without an IV. I don't think. What the hell was I just going to say? Oh, his cardio, I wouldn't even say he has cardio issues, honestly. Like somebody who looks like that, you would assume would gas inside of 2 minutes. Like when we get to the Phil Haas fight, that is not what happens with Tafon. Like his cardio far outlasts, what you would assume it will. But anyway, this is a really tricky fight. I normally go grappler in these type situations, but I think Tafon is such a terrifying striker with so much power and speed and size. I am leaning towards Tafon. He's not in my lineup. If he was a little less money, I'd probably squeeze him in there. He's not in there $8,500 because he very well could just get taken down and smothered. Especially where Jun Young Park is tall, like very tall. So this is a very interesting matchup. Dan, what are your thoughts? What do you think of this line? This is an interesting monkey knife fight line too.
Yeah, I mean, this is it's funny because you obviously watched the last few fights of Jun Young Park where he wrestled the whole time, but the guy is not actually a wrestler. He was a boxer, and he just started learning wrestling like in the past couple of years in South Korea, and he's been going to it against guys who are good strikers. So you'd imagine he'll probably do the same thing here. So yeah, this is going to be an interesting one. I think Tafon, he's 1-0 in the UFC. He won his Dana White Contender Series fight. He also beat Jacob, your best friend, William Knight on the regional scene.
I didn't want to mention it.
One of your previous locks of the week, I believe, right? He beat him. So, I mean, he beat your lock of the week before they were even lock of the week. I don't know what that means, but I'm sure you'll figure out.
I don't think William ever made it. I think that fight dropped. So I think
he was your lock of the week, but he never fought as your lock of the week.
Right.
Oh, right. So that counts as a win. Got it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, listen, he's beat some good guys. You can see right there, he is jacked. He's an explosive striker, power puncher. And Angelo, you said it. He had really good cardio his last fight. He went 3 rounds. Like I kept waiting. I'm like, oh man, he's gonna fade fast here. And he looked pretty good in that 3rd round. He's definitely very fast, especially for his size and build. Super athletic. The way he throws head kicks, I don't know how tall he is. I think he's like 5'8", or he's like very short.
Short Dog says they're both 6 foot, but that's Short Dog. So.
No, he is short.
Jun Young is like legit tall, and Nchukwi's not tall.
Yeah, he is short and stocky, but he throws a head kick like he must do yoga or something because he throws head kicks up there pretty well. So he's definitely athletic. He's also, he's got some really good foot sweeps. He was using that in his last fight. Like I could see that coming into play in this fight against Park. If Park is really trying to grapple and gets the clinch, because I don't think Park is going to get takedowns that easily. I thought Tafon's takedown defense looked pretty good. He got taken down by Jamie Pickett, but he got up pretty well. He's also got pretty solid dirty boxing in the clinch. So I think there are definitely a lot of things in Tafon's favor here. I think overall striking, he's going to be better. He was 13-1 in Muay Thai prior to going to MMA. So he's got striking experience. Park also, I think, has some boxing experience as well. But I mean, Park, so like kind of looking at his tape and his record, he lost to Anthony Hernandez 3 fights ago, and then he won his last 2 straight. And that's what you were saying, Angelo, where he started wrestling. So I think after that Hernandez fight, he basically went and became obsessed with wrestling and used it to win his last 2 fights. The last fight against John Phillips, both fights where he uses wrestling, it was against powerful strikers. So you would think in this fight, he's probably going to have the same game plan. I just don't think he's going to get it that easily. So I'm going to take Tafon in a close one. I think Park will try to go for takedowns. I don't think I'll get him that easily. If he does, it could be trouble for Park or for Tafon, because we saw, you said, where he broke the record for strikes. When Park does get on top, he's pretty good. But I think the guys he was fighting against in the last fights, like I don't think they have the athleticism and the ability to stand up or the takedown defense that Tafon has. So I'm going to take him. And I don't know if he'll get a knockout, but I think he'll probably win a 3-round decision, score a bunch of points in the clinch, land some shots, defend takedowns. Might be a little ugly, but I'm going to take him for the $8,500, I think, right now.
Yeah, and
in the over/under, I'm going. Oh, geez, that's a tough.
More or less,
it's a tough. These are. It's like
I'm going under on Tafon. I'm going under.
Yeah, it's less.
Yeah. So it's almost like they're onto us, man. These lines are getting tighter and tighter and better and better. And I think I would also go under on Tafon because
Under over maybe is better, right?
It's less.
Okay. Anyway, I'm going to go less on Tafon because one of two things happened. He's either one of three things: defending takedowns, therefore not striking; knocked him out, therefore less than 63, or gets taken down, therefore not striking. So I'm going with the less on Tafon, and I'm going to go with the more on Jun-Young Park because I think he'll survive a little bit. So he should get 40 strikes off before he gets starched, meaning like he won't get starched. And if he does get a takedown, as Jacob mentioned, ridiculously active. So he'll blow, even with one takedown for a couple of minutes, he'll blow past that 39.5. So I'm going to go less Tafon, more Park. And if you want to follow me there and triple your money, hit up the link below at playmkf.com/WeWantPicks and use promo code WWP on your first deposit to instantly match up to $100. Play that on this line. These lines move as people come in, as they play, as money comes in, the lines move. So get it early. I like this line with the,
you're probably right. Actually, the more I look at it, it's probably less, more.
I just, when we break down these lines, you just got to think, how is this fight going to go? And, this is one of the, no matter what happens, I think Tafon is less, right? Because if it stays a striker versus striker, Jun-Young's going to get knocked out. So he's going to grapple, and he either gets his way, which limits the striking, or doesn't get his way and he gets knocked out. So then Jun-Young is the one whose line he could get knocked out in a minute. And
Park's boxing is not bad at all.
I know, but to your point,
he's got sneaky power. Good
his
counters.
His fight IQ is solid. And he's recognized, I need to grapple some of these.
Don't be surprised if Park hits him with the counter and clips him.
All right, well, that would surprise me. But anyway, that's my play here. Hit this line if you like it before it moves. But this will be another interesting fight. This entire card is interesting fights. Next up at UFC Vegas 26, we have Christian Aguilera versus Carlston Harris. Carlston has no body, but a ton of wrestling and grappling experience. Jacob, you put together these graphics. First, explain to us why you didn't spend the extra 4.5 minutes to find a complete full body picture of Carlston, and then let us know who you think wins this fight.
Hey, man, he's got no body, but he's got a ton of heart. This guy's got a ton of heart.
Oh, my God.
I'll tell you that.
And we know just to set up that line.
And we know if that's pretty sad if I picked that graphic just to set up that line, because that line was not very good.
Felt very forced.
So second of all, we all know that the best wrestling in the world is Arkansas. Arkansas wrestling, the best wrestling in the world. There's no doubt about that. Number two is Guyana. Guyana wrestling. This guy is a wrestler, and he's going to dominate this fight with his wrestling. I will tell you, with Christian Aguilera, I did get sidetracked. I fell into the trap of, I put in YouTube Christian Aguilera. All that came up was Christina Aguilera videos. I watched Christina Aguilera videos for an hour and a half. I could not stop. She was my girl growing up, not Britney Spears. Christina Aguilera was my girl. If you agree with me in the comments, let me know. He did survive off his back. He was in a fight on his back. He survived. So I can see him surviving this fight, and I can see Harris really, really landed on pretty good on him with the Guyana wrestling. So for some reason, I'm sorry. After talking about this, Harris is not in my lineup, but I think we're going to try and find a way for him to be in my lineup because he's that dominant with the Guyana wrestling. So I would pick Harris to win this fight at $8,600. I think you can get a lot of points with Harris.
Yeah, so I have Harris in my lineup. I just, the wrestling is just too dominant. The grappling is too dominant. And Christian Aguilera, if you watch him fight, he is a brawler. And first of all, let me back up. Yesterday, you and I literally argued because you were saying Christian Aguilera would win. So now to be on here while recording.
You're like, I don't know where you're coming. I'm the one that started this podcast by saying you said Aguilera would win. I would never pick against Harris. There's no way. I have it in my thing right here. I'm looking at it. No way.
Anyway,
the only thing I have in my notes for Aguilera
and lost your mind.
The only thing I have in my notes for Aguilera was good value ? Because maybe he could survive. He's a brawler, who knows? But there's no way I would pick this guy. Christina, yes. Christian, no.
Either way, brawler is the perfect word. That's exactly Christian Aguilera's fighting style. He is a brawler, like bite down in his mouthpiece, try to make something happen, just ready and willing to fight anybody, anywhere type fight style. That doesn't bode well against grapplers. That style works well against other brawlers. That style works well against technical strikers. And Dan has talked about that in the past when we've asked, what's the hardest style to train for? And it's those wild brawlers. They don't do anything that you expect them to do. But that doesn't matter here because Carlston Harris is such a good grappler. I can't imagine there's going to be a lot of standing room for the brawl for Christian to make it ugly and dirty and a nasty fight. I think Carlston's just going to take him down, beat him up, potentially get a submission finish. I have him in my lineup, $8,600. I was perfectly fine spending that money. And if I look at the Monkey Knife Fight line, this is another good line. I'm going to go over on Christian because 22.5 is not a lot of strikes.
It's more.
Okay. 22.5 is not a lot of strikes. So I am going to go more on Christian because he is a brawler. So I think he's just going to throw. And even when Carlston shoots, if you watch fights, there's two different ways to defend takedowns. One is you defend the takedown, right? You're no longer in a fight. You are defending a takedown. You're wrestling, you're pushing on the head, you're getting your hips back, you're working your arms in. The other is just hit him, and hope it loosens up or something to that effect. That's how I see Christian Aguilera defending takedowns. Just hitting Carlston, trying to make him let go, I guess. So I'm going more on Christian Aguilera strikes. And I'm going to go more on Carlston Harris as well, because I think once he gets it to the ground, he will be busy. But that one's tricky. I'm not going to play this line now. I'm waiting to see what direction it moves, because I hope it moves pretty significantly on the Carlston side. So I'm more comfortable with a more or less, if that logic makes any sense, because 46.5 is almost like exactly where I think Carlston will be. So I'm hoping that moves. Either way, Carlston's my pick. He's in my lineup. Daniel, first of all, what'd you think of my there's two ways to defend takedowns? One is
I thought the first one made
I'll tell you what,
perfect sense. I thought the second one was
the way I defend takedowns. I just punch him in the mouth.
Right. Well, that's basically what Angelo said in the second one.
That was my point. My point with that. No, but Dan, my point with that was that's not how you do it. But lots of people just do that. They do those pitter patter punches to the side of the head. It does nothing. You don't reposition your
keyword there being defend. Usually that doesn't really defend anything. Usually
it does nothing.
A couple of those off, and then you end up on your back.
And that was my point with that. Is I think Christian, instead of defending the takedown, is literally just going to try to touch up Carlston's face. His hips will still get sucked in, and he'll still get taken down.
Oh, now you know how Angelo's going to defend your takedowns.
Well, I'm glad you followed. Yeah, right. I'm glad you followed up with that, because at first I thought you were saying that was one way to. No,
it was borderline sarcastic.
Takedown. I was like,
yeah,
that's going to be a tough way to defend takedowns against this guy. No, I see it the same way as you guys. I mean, I think Harris will win, and I think he'll wrestle. I'm not going to touch this in DraftKings just because I will say Aguilera's got that, that brawler, power puncher type style to him, and he could end the fight. The last time I went against him was with Anthony Ivy, and I was like pretty damn sure Ivy was going to win that fight, and Aguilera went out and starched him in a minute. So I've already been burnt once by Aguilera. I don't like this matchup for him. I don't think he'll win it, but I'm not going to take Harris for the $8,600. I'm going to spend my money elsewhere. I think Harris should win pretty easily. Honestly, yeah, at those odds too.
This is definitely, check out our betting breakdown, because this is definitely, those are solid betting odds. -145. That's solid.
Wow. I missed my chance. Jeez. I have here in my note. He was +130 yesterday.
Carlston?
Yeah.
Oh, so it moved. That people wised up very quickly when that was released.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's timing right there in betting. So yeah, I still think he's worth -145 too, to be honest, but I don't know. Just don't like that power Aguilera has.
And we mentioned a few times on this card, this is a tricky card, a lot of close matchups, a lot of fights that can go either way. This is one of the more, I don't think it's going to go the other way. We're all pretty sure Carlston Harris is going to win. Dan, you're not comfortable spending the money just because Christian is an ugly, dirty fighter who has a ton of power and is not afraid of anything. So could get a knockout, could make something happen. But yeah, we think Carlston will win. And to your point, I think
he's a minus 160 now because these graphics were done yesterday. He's a minus 160 now. So it's still moving.
That line's moving. So we're going to have to, maybe as soon as we're done filming, I'll hit that up before it moves too much. But Carlston's our pick. He's in my lineup. Jacob, I forget if he was in yours, but he's not in Dan's. Next up at UFC Vegas 26, we have two massive human beings, giants, going at it. We have Maurice Greene versus Marcos Rogério de Lima. Giants. Absolute giants. This is an interesting, significant strike line. Very interesting DraftKings prices. I was ready before DraftKings released their prices. We're a day late because it took them forever to get those out. Before DraftKings released their prices, I'm like, I want Marcos, Rogério de Lima in my lineup. Then they released their prices. I'm like, nah, I'm not $9,100. So Dan, what are your thoughts on this?
I mean, de Lima trains at ATT, so right out of the gates, you know where I'm going with this one. But I think he's going to walk through Maurice Greene, to be honest. De Lima's a guy who was a light heavyweight. I think he had like 6 or 7 fights at light heavyweight, had some weight issues, went to heavyweight. He's 2-2 there. But the guy still has power for a heavyweight too. Like, he hits hard and he is coming out to take your head off. And I think he's just too powerful. He's going to overwhelm Greene. I mean, the fights I saw Greene in, he's super long, super tall, but he doesn't really even use it that well, and his defense is a little suspect. I don't think he has any ground. I think de Lima is going to close the distance and just land a bomb. And I also think if for some reason he's having trouble on the feet, I think he can use his wrestling to get it to the ground and kind of dominate on top and ground and pound. I just think de Lima's kind of the better fighter all around. And I think he's going to win this fight. And I think there's a lot of upside for a stoppage. So I do have him in my lineup for the $9,100. And yeah, I think he's going to steamroll Maurice Greene.
I completely agree. And in doing our research, we watch the fights, we break down tape, we literally call people that know them and train with them and know people who have trained with them and do our research. I also look at other people's picks and see what they're thinking. People, for some reason, are pretty high on Maurice Greene, and he seems to be their underdog pick. And Maurice Greene is going to do really well. I don't know where that's coming from. First of all, he's a giant freak athlete. So you got me there. He is unbelievably athletic. He is a very big person. His chin is not great. It is not great. John Vellante dropped him, and John Vellante is like, he wasn't great at 205, and then he went up to heavyweight, and he still made that a dirty fight. So I just think Maurice Greene's chin is heading in the wrong direction. Marcos Rogério de Lima has a lot of power and a good ground game. I think Marcos Rogério de Lima is better everywhere. He's not the athlete that Maurice Greene is, and being athletic, that is important here, but he's not the athlete that Greene is, but he has more power. He has better striking. I think he's actually more physically imposing, even though he's shorter. And exactly the way you said it, Dan, I think he can drop Maurice Greene and then pounce on him and potentially submit him. The only reason he's not in my lineup is $9,100 is a ton of money. And we are talking heavyweights. Like, it's not the craziest thing in the world if Maurice Greene knocks out Marcos de Lima, but it's definitely, it's highly unlikely in my opinion. And then Jacob, before I go to you, the monkey knife fight line, it's a solid line. I'm going to go more on Greene because I think he will get off more than 16.5 significant strikes. 16.5 significant strikes is not a lot. So I think he will throw more than that. But Marcos Rogério de Lima is a slow starter. He doesn't come out there throwing bombs. He doesn't come out there moving like crazy. He sort of takes his time and waits. So that 31.5 is pretty solid. I don't know if I'm going to go more or less on that. My instincts are saying more because if he gets it to the ground, he'll hit him a few times before trying to make something happen. But this is another one where I'm going to wait to see if that moves. And once it moves, then I'll strike once it's a little more clear. But Jacob, what are your thoughts here? And tell us how you're going to spend your instant match, your instant WWP match in Monkey Knife Fights up to $100. How are you going to do that?
Yeah, I agree that Marcos is the much better mixed martial artist everywhere. I think he should dominate this fight. I was in the same dilemma that you were in, Angelo. I saw the 9,100. I'm like, is he 9,100 that dominant? Because as you mentioned, Greene with his length, maybe he can do something with that. We also got to remember that Greene, you think he's going to get dominated on the ground. He has 5 submission wins, and a lot of those are with triangle chokes with those long legs. So if there's a weird scramble, he is very, very long. He could find a way to get that triangle up and choke him out. So I don't feel great about Lima in this fight, but I think he definitely should win. He's definitely the better fighter all around. So I have him winning, but he is not in my lineup. I think the only thing this is the only thing that's really, really important for Lima. I'll tell you why. Here we go. His last 8 fights, it's win, loss, win, loss, win, loss, win, loss. That means he's going to win.
You know what's coming.
I mean, it's as simple as it can be.
There you go. See, why you don't need to watch any other channel. They're just going to read
technology
and make stuff up.
Nobody found that.
Why didn't you do that in the beginning, Jacob? We could have just skipped this one and everyone would know what's going to happen. Hey, that Volante fight, that's the one where he submitted him with the
crazy fat man move. Yeah, it was
it was not even a submission really, basically.
Yeah. But Volante dropped him, man. His chin's heading in the wrong direction.
Right. He should theoretically be 0-4 in his last 4.
Exactly. I just don't. I get it. The guy is an athlete. If I had a touch of his athletic ability, my life would be much better than it is now. He is a giant athletic dude, but this is not a great matchup for him.
His nickname is the Crotchet Boss. That's kind of interesting.
Crochet,
dude. Dude, you're bougie. You live in the expensive part of Florida. You should know that.
The Crotchet Boss.
Jacob is supposed to be the Midwestern simpleton.
Oh, it says he's the
Crotchet
Boss. The Crotchet Boss or something like that.
Arkansas wrestling, baby. Damn crotchet bosses.
Oh my God. Jacob and I live in Texas, and you're the one saying crotchet instead of crochet. This is unbelievable, Dan.
It's a very interesting nickname.
Next up at UFC Vegas 26, we have Ryan. I'm assuming it's Benoit because I watched wrestling back in the day and it was Benoit, but people are saying Benoit. Ryan Benoit versus Zarrukh Adashev. This is an interesting fight. I like this one quite a bit. I genuinely am interested in this fight. It is grappler versus wrestler-ish, but these are 2 well-rounded guys who are going to go at it. Daniel, what do you think?
Yeah, I like this one as well. I like the value here on Adashev, and I was watching tape on both of them. It's an interesting. Adashev is an interesting guy, right? Because he's 3-3 as a fighter, MMA fighter, 0-2 in the UFC. Now, again, tough competitions in his losses, Sue Rogério and Tyson Nam. So not the easiest, first couple fights in the UFC. But he's a very good striker. He's a former Glory kickboxer with 10 knockouts in kickboxing. His striking is good. He throws tons of big hooks. He, powerful overhands all day. And the guy has good timing with his shots. And when he lands pretty hard. Benoit, on the other hand, is 3-5 in the UFC. He lost his last 2, but also to very tough competition. So Tim Elliott and Heidi Alatang, both tough losses. He went to a split decision with Brandon Moreno. So, he can hang out there. He can hang with, some of the best strikers in the division. He is also a powerful striker, powerful kicks. He was really competitive in that Alatang fight. And I think, the final round, Alatang uses wrestling to win it, but very competitive throughout that. So, I think the storyline here is Adashev is kind of getting, I don't want to say he's not getting the respect he deserves because he's 3-3 and 0-2 in the UFC, but styles make fights. And I don't think Benoit's wrestling is going to be good enough to make this a wrestling, to get this to the ground. And I think striking wise, I think Adashev is the favorite here. So I think Benoit's got the power to make something crazy happen, but Adashev has legit, I don't even know how much more experience, but a lot more experience in pure striking than Benoit does. He throws powerful shots. So I think for $7,500, Adashev is worth it. I think he's a good value. At a minimum, it's going to be a striking match that probably goes a few rounds. And best case scenario, Adashev lands a big shot and gets a knockout. So I think there's a ton of upside to him at $7,500. I got him in my lineup. I think he wins the fight, to be honest.
And this is a tricky one. And it's funny because I agree with pretty much everything you're saying. And, if you just look at their record and you just go to Tapology and you're like, oh, 3-3 versus 10-7, I made my mind up. Oh, that one's the favorite. I'm done. That is not the right approach here. Adashev is a very, very good kickboxer, a credentialed kickboxer with worlds of combat kickboxing experience. His losses are because he's had weird matchups. He's transitioned to MMA, which obviously is an entirely different sport. So in order for Benoit to win, he needs to take this to the ground. I don't think the striking is comparable, honestly. I think he needs to get this to the ground. And to your point, he's not like a wrestler. Obviously, he's the more well-rounded mixed martial artist, so he's been training wrestling for longer, and he should be able to get it to the ground. But Adashev is dangerous. He really is. I mean, his UFC record sucks. His MMA record sucks. But his combat kickboxing record does not suck. And if he could touch Ryan up early and get Ryan nervous about shooting from too far away or setting up some of those takedowns, then if Ryan's not fully committing to takedowns, he will get knocked out. So this is tricky. I'm actually not touching this at all. $7,500 is very affordable, but there's some other people around that price point. I think Angela Hill is like almost right there. And as bad as she looked in her last fight, I have more confidence in her. But so I'm not touching in the price point. And the odds aren't crazy enough to bet either. Plus 125, that's not enough for me to throw money on a 3-3 guy. So this one is tricky. But I do like the Monkey Knife Fight significant strike line. I'm going to go more for Adashev and more for Benoit Benoit. I don't know. Because I do think they'll go at it. I think it'll be a striking match. I don't think Benoit will shoot early. He may shoot late if he gets touched up, but I'm going to go more and more on both of those. And I'm confident in that pick, and especially with the free money that I get if I use promo code WWP on my first deposit. Jacob, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so basically I went to Tapology. I saw one was 3-3, the other guy is 10-7. I thought, well, there's my pick.
All right. Well, you have 20,000 subscribers now. Congratulations.
but seriously, here's what's going to happen. Adashev is going to get submitted. Ryan has takedowns. He's got decent takedowns. You don't credit his wrestling. I think he's got decent takedowns. And you guys have forgotten that he is over at, let me pronounce this right. Is it Chenzo Gracie? Who's Henzo? Renzo? How do you say that?
It's Henzo. Where did you get a
Chenzo? I mean, you're trying to make a joke, but how'd you get the CH?
Yeah.
No, I wasn't trying to make a joke. I really thought you say Chenzo. I knew it was something.
Ours are H's.
Okay. Henzo. He's at Henzo Gracie. So he's been there. So he's been working on that jiu-jitsu game, takedowns, all that good stuff. He knows he's against a kickboxer. He's preparing for this camp. So I think he gets the fight to the ground. I think he submits Adashev. I'm already going to place a prop bet on a submission win for Ryan. And you also got to remember, too, he was also caught up. He missed some time because he got caught up in some picograms with the steroids, the John Jones stuff. So he had issues with that stuff. That's just a little piece to add in there, a little fun fact for everyone. But I still like Ryan to win this fight. I think he gets to the ground. I think he submits Adashev.
The prop bet is interesting because I bet the odds of a submission for Ryan Benoit are pretty solid. And then the odds for a Zarrukh knockout are pretty solid. You could probably take both of those and still end up units at the end of that.
I know what I'm doing here.
What are you doing?
I'm going under on Benoit, less on Benoit, and I'm going above on
above.
I'm going higher on Adashev.
That's not terrible. I was struggling with what to do with Benoit. Some of these, I'm just going to wait. So the way Monkey Knife Fight works, if you haven't watched some of these other videos, the first few days that these lines are published, they're in what they call protection mode, where you will win 2.5 times your money for these prop games. And after that, once those lines level off, usually by Friday, you then start to win 3 times your money. So I wait on some of these that, like, sometimes the lines open up and it's like, oh,
it's moved a little bit. It's 27.5 for Adashev, but Benoit is the same.
Yeah, Benoit is the one that I need to move. So I'll probably wait till Friday to see what happens with Benoit, because once those lines level off, and it's by Friday, I believe, that's when you triple your money. So I'll probably wait till Friday, see where these lines are, because I'm definitely going over on Adashev. It's the Benoit that I want that to move. I just want it to pop up to 65 or drop down to 45 so I can make a very clear decision. So we'll see what happens. But anytime you're tripling your money, there is some margin of error. Next up at UFC Vegas 26, we have Phil Hawes versus Kyle Daukaus. This, to me, is honestly the most interesting fight on the entire card. This one is so tricky. So we have Phil Hawes, ridiculous, phenomenal wrestler who has sort of very similar to Tyron Woodley, right? Phenomenal wrestler, a ton of power. Except unlike Tyron Woodley, he has like no gas whatsoever. He has like a round and a half. He has like 7.5 minutes of cardio and gas. Where Kyle Daukaus, what'd you say?
No, I said me too.
Yeah.
It's about 7.5.
Yeah, I bet. Kyle Daukaus, I mean, just look at the pictures. Kyle Daukaus is not physically imposing, not fast, has particularly.
But he looks like he's trying to look
like frumpy.
Yeah. Right. Yes, frumpy is the word. He doesn't look like that in his fight. I mean, his fights, he looks, like that is just a bad picture. He needs to update that.
He just actually put one 9 hours ago in his new Venom kit. He looks great.
Okay, so like we're just using old graphics.
60-year-old female social studies teacher. I don't even know what's going on there, but he doesn't look like that in his fights.
No, but he's not particularly fast. He doesn't have incredible power, but he does have solid fight IQ. He's very well rounded, and his jiu-jitsu is tricky, like tricky. So this fight is super interesting because Phil Hawes could just starch him with that crazy knockout power, could blow right through him with a blast double and just pound on him. Or Daukaus could weather the storm, wear him out, submit him no problem in the second round, third round. Dan, you laughed at me. Why? And what are your thoughts?
I was just thinking of what sort of bet we could make on over-under of how many times you say interesting and tricky throughout a podcast. I guarantee you that it would be, what would the number be, Jacob, for an over-under?
I don't know, but maybe Monkey Knife Fight will make it a more or less.
More or less.
37.5.
I'm going more on both, no matter what, even if you know it's coming.
All right, well, let's turn it into a drinking game. Anybody out there who has the time, tally it up. We'll turn it into a drinking game, and we'll take shots together on the live stream.
Oh,
Dan, what are your actual thoughts on the fight instead of criticizing me and my hosting abilities?
I think it's very interesting and tricky. That's for starters. No, I think, well, here I go. I'm going to say it is interesting and tricky. Now, I think Phil Hawes is like you said, he's got the power edge. I think he's got the striking edge, but he doesn't have it for long because his cardio, I mean, especially in this sort of fight, if he doesn't get a finish early, his cardio is going to be tested. With that being said, there is a pretty good chance he could get a finish early. Like, he is an explosive, powerful striker. He's extremely fast. And it's not like he's going to go out and get taken down right out of the gates because he's got D1 level wrestling. He's a JUCO national champion. So wrestling wise, like, if this were a 2-minute or, 3-minute wrestling match, I'd take Phil Hawes, but it's a 15-minute fight. So that changes everything as you get into the second and third round. So, Daukaus, on the other hand, too, he's got good wrestling, probably not near as good as Phil Hawes on paper. Striking, he's definitely a little bit behind Hawes. but he's just game. He's down to go 3 rounds. Even in his Brendan Allen fight where he got beat up for 2 rounds, that 3rd round, he almost made a comeback and stole the fight. So he's one of those guys that if you don't get him out of there early, he's not going away, and he's going to be in your face, just scrapping till the bitter end. So in a coin flip type decision, I'm thinking I'm going to take Hawes here, just with being the more athletic, more powerful guy. But again, if it goes to the later rounds, I could see Daukaus kind of just exposing him and beating him up a little bit. So my pick's Hawes, but I hope he gets an early stoppage. I'm not touching this for DraftKings. And monkey knife fights, I'm going over under.
It's tricky. So you're going more
or less. I'm going higher and lower. Higher and lower, up and down.
I'm going increase, decrease.
I think
I agree with pretty much all of that. This is tricky. I advise everybody to stay away from this. Monkey knife fight is the only one I would do with this because, again, you triple your money. So there is some margin for error. And if you use promo code WWP in your first deposit, they will instantly match up to $100 that you can play. You deposit 100, you have 200 5 seconds later. With that being said, I think I'm definitely going Phil Hawes. And I think it's just tricky to say, okay, Phil Hawes is the better striker. Phil Hawes is the better athlete. Phil Hawes hits harder. Phil Hawes is the better wrestler. Daukaus has better cardio and better jiu-jitsu. Okay, we're 4 against 2. And cardio and jiu-jitsu are very important. And if he gasses at the end of the first, and if he gasses halfway through the second, that's a lot of time to make a mistake and get caught in a submission. I'm just hoping that 12 fights into his career, cardio issues are very hard to fix. So I'm actually not going to say he fixes cardio. That cardio issues, like some people literally can never fix that. And other people, it takes 10 years to fix your cardio. Like he'd literally have to lose muscle mass. So I don't think his cardio is going to be fixed, but I'm hoping his fight IQ gets better where, okay, he's going to come out a little slower and reserve some of that energy. Or if he does get exhausted, don't wrestle. Don't wrestle, because that's when you're going to get in trouble. If he's exhausted and he has no energy left and he wrestles and he ends up on the ground, that's the only place I see him being in trouble. So if he's exhausted and he keeps it standing, he'll be fine. And I'm hoping he's at a good camp. Like he's doing all the right things. He has a good record. This guy can legitimately, if he makes those small changes, be like a Tyron Woodley. I'm going with Hawes here. I think he can make the small adjustments. And by small adjustments, I mean, when he's exhausted, don't commit to wrestling. Don't put yourself in Daukaus's world, which is on the ground. Jacob, you're grabbing your hat. You're doing ridiculous things. Your beard was redder than ever. So why don't you walk through why you think I'm wrong and what you think?
If I did that stupid counting with my fingers 4-2, you guys would have ripped me to shreds. Oh, he's got this, and 4 is more than 2, so that means he's going to win the fight.
As soon as he says, like, this is Jacob math going on.
Oh, my God, I would have been ripped to shreds.
The only problem is on your 2, you had cardio on there, and if that goes away, the other 4 don't mean anything.
Right. Crazy. So what's going to happen is Phil Hawes is going to get tired. He's going to get choked out. Kyle Daukaus, his loss against Brendan Allen, and I think we're all speak very highly about Brendan Allen for his grappling abilities. That was a short notice UFC debut, and he actually outstruck Allen, and he had 3 takedowns versus Allen. Allen had no takedowns. He had 3 takedowns versus Allen. He outstruck him. So I going back, I got to remember how he even lost that fight because he outstruck him by like 30 strikes. I know he got beat up early, but it's crazy. I just
got grappled in the first 2 rounds. But that's a good point because you're reminding me that he took that short notice.
Right. UFC debut, short notice. I think it was like a week short notice, and still went 3 rounds and didn't look terrible for a UFC debut against a very good fighter. We think, Brandon Allen is a very, very good fighter. So I think that he just gets in a situation where, and you said I would stay away from this DraftKings. I think one of these fighters should be in everyone's lineup. I think you have to decide on which one you like more, because if Phil Hall wins, it's going to be a lot of points. And if Kyle Daukaus wins, I also think it's going to be a lot of points. So I think it's one of those things that you have to decide which one you like. and one of these people have to be in your lineup because it's going to be a first-round finish, a ton of points for Phil Hawes, or Kyle Daukaus is going to scramble, get all those advanced, all those reverses, and maybe choke him out late with a late finish. So I have Kyle Daukaus in my lineup, and I have him win the fight.
Jacob, so that depends on, in my opinion, whether you're doing a cash game, like single entry cash game, right, or a multi-entry big tournament, right? Like if you're doing a multi-entry big tournament, yeah, of course you got to have exposure to one or both of these guys probably. But in a single entry cash game, dude, to your point, like if Hawes wins, it's going to be all over, right? So if you decide to take Daukaus and Hawes puts him out in the first minute, which could happen, your lineup is jammed up right out of the gates. By the same token, if you take Hawes, I mean, I guess Hawes has the better
Hawes is a safer bet because he's not going to get stopped inside of a minute or 2 minutes, no matter what.
He'll lose in the later rounds.
Yeah,
he'll at least get 30 plus points in a loss, even if he gets smoked in the third round. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't think you need to have either of them, and if you're doing a cash game or a single entry tournament, but for sure.
And you say he's not going to get stopped inside 2 minutes. I can see him shooting across and getting caught very easily inside 2 minutes.
He's not
Kyle Daukaus?
Dude, no, I can see Hawes shooting across, getting caught in a guillotine or a weird scramble.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that
anything's possible, but I do not see a fresh Phil Hawes getting caught in a submission. No way.
Daukaus is good, man. Good.
Well, this is.
It should be an undefeated fighter. I mean, technically, short notice. Be undefeated.
It is an interesting fight and a tricky fight. To your point, Jacob, you said, and logic agrees with you that Phil Hawes will come out, look amazing, get tired, and then lose. I'm just saying that at this point in his career, with the success he's had, I'm hoping that he's not going to make those mistakes, because the only mistake would be when you're exhausted, take Chris Daukaus down. That's the only mistake. It's not, oh, my hands weren't up, Chris Daukaus knocked me out. That's not going to happen. It's not, oh, I wasn't ready, Chris Daukaus took me down. That's not going to happen. The only mistake Phil Hawes can make if he gets exhausted is take a sloppy shot, take his time, not take it serious, and then get submitted. So I'm hoping his fight IQ with his career is continuing to work its way up, and he's not going to make that mistake. I'm tired. Let me take a desperate shot. So I'm going to Phil Hawes there, but
I decided that's why I'm going to have Jacob.
And I'll tell you what, the rest of
all my fight losses and just use his logic for all. I'd be 15-1. There's one you're going to have to get rid of.
And let me just reassure the people. More people are on my side than your guys' side because the odds are in favor of Daukaus. So,
well, that's how we're going to play this.
Even listen to what I just said. I was actually giving him a compliment.
Dan was basically saying, if Jacob was my hype man, the only fight I might have maybe lost was against the WWE champion of the world,
Matt Riddle. Matt Riddle.
Next up at UFC Vegas 26, we have Diego Ferreira versus Gregor Gillespie. And I moved my entire DraftKings lineup around to make sure Gregor Gillespie was in it. And this is an awesome fight. I love watching both of these guys fight. I'm legitimately looking forward to this. But this is pretty clear for me. Is it clear for you, Dan?
Yeah, I like Gregor Gillespie in this fight. I'm excited to see him come back. He's very, very, very good wrestler. I think he's going to come out with a vengeance after the loss to Kevin Lee. He was on a 6-fight win streak before that. They were talking about him as, being a contender, potentially a future champion. Good ground and pound, top game submissions, good striking too. I think he's just very well rounded. He just looks and sounds like he has that kind of champion's mentality. And then Ferreira is a tricky grappler. He uses submissions to stand up if he doesn't get the sub. His takedown defense was not that great from what I saw. Beneil Dariush took him down pretty easily. Not that Benil's a bad wrestler, but he just took him down really pretty easily. And he's also down to slug it out, but not like a really polished striker. So I just think that this is Gregor Gillespie is just a different level fighter. I think he's going to win this fight. Probably a pretty dominant unanimous decision would be my guess. And I think he'll score pretty well. So I am trying to get him in my lineup right now. So I'm just moving a few things around.
Yeah, he's not cheap, but he is cheaper than he could have been. They could have easily made him a $90-something $100 fighter. So
yeah,
I'm going with Gregor Gillespie. His wrestling is better. His striking is better. Diego has the advantage in the pure BJJ, and I don't think it matters here. I don't think they're going to end up in a pure BJJ environment. The last fight we broke down was Phil Hawes. And Phil Hawes could end up exhausted and in a tricky jiu-jitsu situation. Gregor Gillespie is not going to end up exhausted in a tricky jiu-jitsu situation. So even when he does take it to the ground, which he will, he's not going to be in trouble. So I have Gregor Gillespie in my lineup. I'm probably going to put some bets on him. I agree with you. This is a unanimous decision win. So that's probably a prop bet I'm going to hit. And as far as Monkey Knife Fight is concerned, I'm going more on both. They are pretty active. I think Gregor is just busy on top for most of this fight. And I think, Diego is going to be busy while they're standing to try to make it ugly. So this is pretty clear for me. I literally had to move my lineup around to get Gregor in it. But Jacob, what are your thoughts here? What are you doing? How do you feel?
I feel kind of weird about Gregor Gillespie because it feels like one of those up and coming guys, but he's already 34 years old, which is kind of hard to believe. And I found this also interesting. He stated that he ended his wrestling career because he didn't think he could beat Jordan Burroughs, which he was probably right about that. So that's why he said he ended his wrestling career. I will say that I have Gregor in my lineup. I think he dominates the fight. I'm going to take a prop bet for a Ferreira submission win. I saw him the way he controlled Pettis on the ground. Pettis is a very good BJJ guy. I see that Gregor, from what I can find, he's only a blue belt. So yes, he is a dominant wrestler, but in those weird, BJJ scrambles, if it comes to that, we'll see what happens. So I think he definitely will dominate. He's a better striker, a better wrestler, can get the takedowns, but there's just in the back of my head here, I'm thinking, let me just kind of hedge myself a little bit and take a prop at a submission win for Ferreira. So, but I think Gregor, I agree with you guys, just dominates this fight.
Yeah, and two things in jiu-jitsu, belts only matter in gi. They don't give out belts for no gi. So, with Gregor's wrestling background, I don't know how much gi time he's actually put in. So, him being a blue belt may not mean literally anything. Dan, what belt?
I used to be the king of putting zero time into gi. I actually got belted one time. I was hitting pads in the cage with Cattell, and they were doing a belt ceremony over on the mat. And all of a sudden I hear like clapping and like Cattell stop on the pads. And like I got my belt while I was in MMA gear hitting pads just because Laborio kept telling me to start doing gi. And I was like, yeah, I don't know. I will. But anyways, so. But yeah,
that's been right behind me, right there where my finger's pointing is my blue belt certificate. I got my blue belt in 2003. I've worn that bathrobe maybe 4 times since then. I hate the gi. So, in MMA, when you look at somebody who's a phenomenal wrestler like Gregor Gillespie, if he has like a true old school jiu-jitsu coach, he's not going to get a belt unless he wears the gi. And if he's fighting MMA, there's no reason to wear the gi.
Well, he trains under Joe Scarola and Carlos Rosado.
Scarola, isn't that a Northeast guy?
Not sure.
Because he's Italian. Unbelievable.
I know his name from somewhere.
Us Italians are offended by that assumption that we're all from the Northeast.
Or he was on The Ultimate Fighter, wasn't he?
It does sound very familiar. He was on The Ultimate Fighter. I think like the season.
Isn't he the guy who went home?
That name sounds so familiar.
We got to look this up.
We will look it up. That name does sound incredibly familiar now that you say it, Joe Scarola. But yeah, so we all see it going that way. I mean, depending on Jacob, this
he did leave.
Yeah.
He was the guy, right?
He packed his bags and took off prematurely. Joe Scarola. Is that the same one though? Let me make sure.
Yeah, no, there's 10 different.
I think it was for his girlfriend too. It was like a.
It was. I remember now that you say that. It was for his girlfriend.
That's bad. There's a lot of things I don't remember. That I remembered that about him. How many years after the fact? Oh, that's brutal.
You don't remember things in your own career.
He ended his career undefeated. He ended his career.
I was like, who's that guy?
4-0-1.
Dan, you fought him in 2010.
He ended his career undefeated, Dan, because Dana said if you leave, Jacob, if Dana said if you leave, you will never fight in the UFC. So that was it.
He lost the Ultimate Fighter fight, but that was an exhibition. So his pro career, he's undefeated.
And then Dana was like, if you leave, that's it. You're like, don't ever try to come back. Anyway, we've gotten off topic. I think Gregor wins. We all think Gregor wins. This off topic happened because, Jacob, you mentioned you would take a prop bet on Diego Ferreira by submission. Unless that's plus like 500 or 600, I would avoid that. But
is there a prop bet that Ferreira is going to not fight because his girlfriend doesn't want him to?
Because he misses. I mean, listen, if Joe Scarola's married and has kids now and he's happy as hell, then good for him. I imagine that didn't work out, though. Next up at UFC Vegas 26, we have Neal Magny versus Geoff Neal. Other people keep saying Geoff Neal, which blows my mind. It's Geoff Neal. This is interesting and tricky, Dan, because Neal Magny is like they all are. This card specifically, Neal Magny is very well-rounded, has abilities everywhere. Geoff Neal is a great striker who was like beat pillar to post by Wonder Boy, like beat the piss out of Geoff Neal. So it's a big question. Like, what is Geoff Neal going to look like in this fight? At least for me. Like that was a bad, like very dominant, lost all 5 rounds, got beat on ABC, no less. So anyway, this one actually is, I use the word tricky too much and everybody's getting drunk if we turn it into a drinking game. This one is tricky, much trickier than the odds or the DraftKings prices would indicate. The
trickiest of tricks.
Very, very sneaky. Dan, do you think this is tricky?
I mean, I think, let's put it this way. Let's figure out new ways to use tricky. I think they both are coming off very, very tricky recent losses. So Magny was on a 3-fight win streak, solid wins over Robbie Lawler, Rocco Marin, Li Jinglang. And then he got out grappled by Mike Chiesa. Mike Chiesa, one of the tougher matchups in the division. The guy can put a pace on you grappling wise that most can't deal with. Geoff Neal, like you mentioned, very tough stylistic matchup to Stephen Thompson. Stephen Thompson, honestly, is one of the most underrated, toughest fights. Like, I wouldn't want to fight him if I was on my way to a title because he's very hard. He's that karate style distance striker that just, it's very, very hard to replicate.
Tough, like super tough.
And tough, yeah.
Technical, weird stance, handsome. Like he's tricky. Well,
you're getting carried away now, but yes, he's a very, very good fighter. He likes long walks on the beach. No, I think they're both coming off stylistically tough matchups. And I think this is actually kind of a tough matchup for both of them.
Yeah, you can say tricky.
I wanted to so bad, and I refused.
No, it's you're making fun of the words I use, but they're appropriate.
I'm hitting the thesaurus after this, and I'm going to delete the word tricky from my brain. It'll replace Joe Scarola, whatever the new word is. Anyways, I think this is going to be Neal landing big shots potentially if Magny can't get his way and get it to the ground. I mean, here's the bottom line. I think this is a tough fight for both of them. I think it's a close fight, but I think Neal's got enough power, and I think Magny does keep his hands low and his chin up a little bit too much. And I think at some point Geoff Neal's going to catch him. The fact that he went that many rounds with Wonder Boy just shows he can stay in a fight and be there the entire time and be competitive, even though he got beat up in that fight. But I think at some point Geoff Neal's going to find Magny's chin and hurt him. But low level of confidence in this one. I'm not touching it in DraftKings. As far as the higher or lower, more or less, up or down for Monkey Knife Fight, I am going to go with, that's interesting.
These lines get harder and harder every week.
Yeah. I'm going to go with, because Neal could just starch him. So that's the thing. If you're going for an early knockout, you got to just bank on that. But let's assume that's not going to happen. It's a fight. I'm going to go more on Magny and less on Neal, because I think Magny will figure out some ways to get it to the ground or stall or minimize the strikes. And I think he'll get 34.5. And unless Neal gets a knockout, or if he gets a knockout, obviously it'll be less, but I don't think he's going to get 60 strikes. So
yeah, 60 is a lot. And when we break down these monkey knife fight lines, to your point, you got to think about what's going to happen. Well, potential path to victory. I think Neal's only path to victory is, and we're saying Neal, they both have Neal in the name. Magny's only path to victory is to get this to the ground. I think if it stays standing, it doesn't end well for him. So if he imposes his will, he's going to get more than 34.5 significant strikes because he'll get it to the ground. He'll beat him up on the ground. He won't submit Geoff Neal, but he'll touch him up on the ground and he'll land more than 34.5 significant strikes. So I'll go the more there. If Geoff Neal gets his way, he'll knock out Neal Magny early. So I would go the less there. And then you have to think about, is this going to go 3 rounds, or is Geoff Neal really going to get this early? So I think the more on Magny, the less on Geoff Neal is probably a solid play. Neal Magny is tough. Neal Magny has a ton of experience. He's got high fight IQ. He's been there for a while. He had a nice streak for a little bit where it looked like, oh boy, Neal Magny's going to make something happen. So I think he's game enough, experienced enough to survive. So I think he does land more than 34.5 significant strikes. I think he can neutralize some of Geoff Neal's, strike heavy offense. So Geoff will be under 59.5. And I'm going to use my free $100 when I go to playmkf.com/wewantpicks. I'll deposit $100 and I'll use promo code WWP, and they will instantly match my 100, and I will have a second 100 for free. So if I deposit 100, I will have 200 to play with. I'm going to take that free money. I'm going to put it the more on Magny, the less on Geoff Neal. But Jacob, what are your thoughts? Dan and I both going Geoff Neal here. Who do you think wins?
Jacob is just waiting to make an I'm picking Neal joke. That's what he's going to go with. I see it.
Low-hanging fruit. Not for me.
Oh, you got something better?
He goes low-hanging fruit. You watch him cross it off on a piece of paper.
Right. He just transitions to lock of the week just in a panic.
So Geoff Neal is very good in his recent wins versus like people he can brawl with, right? So he's got Bilal Muhammad. Bilal Muhammad will strike with you. Nico Price will definitely strike with you. Mike Perry will definitely strike with you. He looks great against people he can brawl with. Against cleaner fighters like Stephen Thompson, you see him get pieced up. Also, his last loss before that was Kevin Holland, who has great length, can use his length. Neal Magny is very, very tall for this division. He's 6'3" and uses his length well. And Angelo, you mentioned, if this fight gets to the ground, Neal Magny's ground and pound is nasty. I mean, really, really tough. He didn't get to show that against Chiesa because Chiesa is a very, very good wrestler and was able to control that fight. But when he gets on top of you, he gets full mount and he just beats the living hell out of you. And this card is tough because there aren't a lot of underdogs that are that you feel good about. I think there's only one other underdog that I picked in this card, which is Park. We're coming off. Last week we got
here it is, Dan. Turn around.
Last week we got the big lock of the week win. Dan almost spoiled. I thought you kind of spoiled this. You said I was going to do it in a panic, but there's not a lot of underdogs I feel good about. But Neal Magny, here we go. We got the win last week, lock of the week. We're back on track after a couple setbacks. So we're going with Neal Magny.
Feel as bold as it usually is. This is
plus he didn't hit the lock of the week last week.
There's tapes. You will not release the tape. You won't release the tapes. I've showed you the tapes. I've played it for everyone else.
You had two lock of the week. You had one lock of the week. Cub Swanson.
I said
he normally has three as the lock of the week, the backup lock of the week.
Review the tapes. The whole week.
Backup lock of the week.
I said Cub Swanson was like a bias. I said if I had a real lock, there's tapes. You can go look at the TJ Brown breakdown. I said if I had a real lock of the week where I wasn't Cub because it was biased, that it would have been
He did say that.
Brown.
I will say that was
TJ Brown
his illegitimate claims. That was the closest to legitimate he's made.
And TJ Brown won that fight convincingly. Very easy decision for the judges to make. Now we're riding it back. We're going 2 in a row.
The most disputed decision on the entire card was a very easy decision.
Do I interrupt you guys every time you talk?
Yes.
No. You guys have been sitting here talking 15 minutes every fight card. I'm just sitting here minding my own business. Now I mentioned lock of the week, and you guys get all bitter and all bent out of shape because everyone loves the lock of the week, and nobody cares about what you guys say. Neal Magny.
He's coming at me. Jesus, I'm the biggest fan of lock of the week in the world.
Neal Magny, lock of the week.
Up over there. He's got his Conor McGregor shirt on, looking like Conor McGregor with the
Conor
beard.
McGregor beard. Not a Conor McGregor apartment. That place is tiny and trash.
That's Conor McGregor's walk-in closet.
But I do think
shoe closet.
It's not a terrible lock of the week, honestly. This is a tricky fight. I'm not touching it. I think Geoff Neal wins, but I mentioned Neal Magny has the experience, has the fight IQ, and has the tools. But his path to victory is grappling. So he needs to get it to the ground to make it work. If he's going to stand with Geoff Neal for 3 rounds, it won't go well. So
if he comes back with the crown, I just, I don't know what to do.
So it's not the worst lock of the week pick. It is tricky. Jacob's ridiculous accounting of his lock of the week.
There it is. Like I said, the crown. I knew he was going to come back with that thing.
Gee, unbelievable. Unbelievable.
That thing dazzled.
Gotta get a magic carpet now too.
All right. Well, good news is if you are a member of this channel, we have rolled out emojis that are only for members. One of them is a picture of Jacob. Another one is a hashtag LOTW. Use your computer, comment down below, and use those emojis and let us know if you agree with this lock of the week or if you don't. And once you hit up the live chat during our live stream on Saturday, you can use those emojis there, emotes, whatever you call them. I'm too old to know all the names, but we've hit Jacob's lock of the week. Of all the underdogs on this card, he's got a chance. I'm going with the main event underdog, but we will talk about that in a minute. Next up at UFC Vegas 26, we have Amanda Ribas versus Angela Hill. This is a tricky fight. I mean, Jacob, your crush on Amanda Ribas is very interesting. Funny story for everybody out there. Dan trains an American Top Team. A couple of our other close friends, we won't say by name, also train an American Top Team. We're in a group chat. Jacob was joking around one day and said, "Hey, you want to give me Amanda Ribas's number?" And somebody sent it, and Jacob panicked, deleted the text trail, didn't know what to do with himself. So you had your shot. You didn't take it. But what are you doing in this fight? Who are you taking in this?
Look at his mind spinning right now.
First of all, we've had many Twitter conversations, so that's no big deal. We talk often, but I will say this is a what is it?
I did send him in a tailspin there, Dan, because he knows that story is 100% true. He had Amanda Ribas's phone number, did nothing with it, and then comes on the show like
his beard is changing a different shade of red.
Like a moon ring.
I'm still working on my Portuguese. Once I get my Portuguese correct, I'm working with Glover. My friend Glover's helping me out.
There's the quick way to Jacob. We all know that's right. You got to get your Portuguese going good before you make the full. I
do know. Hey, Amanda, Linda. I do know that. Linda. That means beautiful. Amanda, Linda. I know that.
I don't even think you're saying it right. I think it's Linda.
But I will say, so
actually, real quick, Dan, you know what's creepy about what just happened? His mother's name is Linda. So instead of saying Linda with an accent, he's just saying his mother's name over and over.
I think my mom is also beautiful. You don't think your mom is beautiful? I don't know. Maybe you don't maybe you disrespect your mom. Not me. Couldn't be me. But I will say, Amanda Ribas, this is one of those fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me, because I'm going with Ribas. I think she should dominate this fight.
That makes no sense. She lost last time.
I thought you were going to hit him with the George Bush. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice.
Yeah.
See, you can't fool me again.
You can't get fooled again. You can't get fooled again. But if she burns me here again, then Amanda, this is up to you. This is a big fight for you, Amanda, because if you burn me again, I might have to delete the conversations. I might unfollow. So this is on you, Amanda, to prove me right, because Angela Hill, we were very high on her going into the Ashley Yoder fight, and she didn't look great against Ashley Yoder. And Ashley Yoder is tough and is skilled everywhere, but I would have expected her, as on the trajectory that we talked about how she could have been on, to look a lot better than that. And Amanda, even though she got KO'd in her last fight, her losses are KO losses, which isn't good, but I don't think Angela Hill is going to KO her. And in her wins, she is so dominant. So I think she gets the control of Angela. She gets it to the ground and just does what she normally does in fights. So if she burns me again, that's on me, but I'm putting her in my lineup. This is one of those where I talked about earlier on about the Carlston Harris. And I thought, why don't I have Carlston Harris in my lineup for $8,600? Well, this is why I don't have Carlston Harris in my lineup. So if you don't feel good about Amanda, that's an option for $200 cheaper. We talked about that fight, so you can watch that fight breakdown. But I got to go with my girl, Amanda. I'm going to wish her good luck. But if she burns me again, Amanda, this could be it for us. So
I give the odds makers a lot of credit here, because I'm surprised they have Angela Hill as the underdog, because Angela Hill is like, if you listen to the UFC announcers and if you watch those broadcasts, she's like the greatest female fighter in the division right now. And she is very skilled. She has, a lot of upside. She's known for taking, like, those 9 losses, a bunch of split decisions, and almost all of them are fights she took on like 3 days notice. So there's a lot of asterisks and caveats in those losses. And you'll always hear people say she's better than her record, which she is. I agree with you, Jacob. Angela Hill, in her fight against Ashley Yoder, that was supposed to be like the one-sided beating of the century, and she did not look good. Angela Hill did not look good in that fight. Go back to my recap video where I talk about Angela Hill didn't look good, just didn't. And she was like $9,300, something obscene in that fight. But at $7,400, Angela Hill is much more attractive. So I took her at $7,400. She is in my lineup. I think the experience, the fight IQ, I think she has much less pressure on her than Amanda Ribas does. I think she's the better striker. I think where she lacks in this fight is the grappling, but Angela Hill has great takedown defense. So I think she can outstrike Amanda Ribas. I don't think she's going to knock her out. That's not her thing. But I think she can keep her at distance, touch her up, score a bunch of points, get a decision win. So I am going Angela Hill. I have her in my lineup. More less line. I'm going less on Amanda Ribas, more on Angela Hill, and I'm very confident in that, because even if Amanda Ribas wins, she's not landing more than 69.5 significant strikes. That's not happening. Just not happening. She's going to
if she lands that many strikes, then she lost the fight, because she's been on her back foot just trying to defend, And I agree that Angela Hill has got a decent shot. I am biased in Amanda, because that's my girl. But Angela Hill, when she fights, when she can control the pace, she's very, very good. That's why I think Amanda's going to get in her face and really throw the fight at her, and she's not going to be able to control that. But if Angela Hill can control the pace of this fight, then I think she will win. I agree, but I just think that Amanda's going to get in her face and do what she does.
Yeah, it's definitely a tougher fight to pick, but I'm going with experience. She has more ways to win, Angela Hill. Not more ways to win, because she's only going to win by decision, but she has more tools in her bag, where I don't think Amanda wins the stand-up. She just doesn't. So she's got to get it to the ground and win there. And Angela Hill's not easy to get to the ground, although she looked bad against Ashley Yoder. Ashley Yoder also had to get it to the ground to win and couldn't do that. So Dan, what are your thoughts here? How do you see this going?
Yeah, I think this could potentially be a close fight, but I'll also say I feel like there's a lot of recency bias with Amanda Ribas. With her last loss, people are saying, oh, she didn't look that great. She was overrated. I can tell you she is very, very good. And prior to that fight, she was like on the fast track to being the next big thing in the division. She had a tough fight. She didn't look great, but I think she won the first round though, right? And she got in trouble in the second and she got beat. I can guarantee you she's going back and working to improve on what she did wrong her last fight and getting back on track. And she's a talented, skilled fighter. So striking, you're right. This is a tough matchup. Stylistically from a striking standpoint. Angela Hill is very athletic, hits hard, good feints, very active. Her takedown defense has been pretty good too in some fights, but spotty in others. But I just think Ribas is going to come back, really looking to get that loss behind her. I think she's going to get it to the ground. I think she's going to dominate on the ground. And I think she's going to either get a submission or win. I don't know if she'll stop Angelo Hill with ground and pound, but I think she's going to come out and win this fight. I think she's going to get the takedown she needs. I think she's going to be super motivated. And I think she's going to get back to where she was prior to her last fight. So,
so both of you going with Amanda Ribas?
Yeah, I'm going with Amanda Ribas. I'm trying to work her into my lineup, but 8,800.
A lot of money.
Yeah, it's a lot of money, and just the style it's going to take to win the fight. You know, I don't know.
But she's one of those girls too that gets finishes, man. She's got 7 finishes out of her 10 wins.
She definitely has a sub that likely could happen. So I've got her in there right now, but I'm just playing around with some things because I just don't like the money I have left over and who's left. So I'm going to try to get her in my lineup if I can, but if not, I think she will win the fight. And yeah, I'm going to take a look at more or less on strikes. I'm going to go under here. I think Ribas is going to get the takedowns. Yeah.
So you don't think Angela Hill throws or lands more than 48 significant strikes?
I said less.
Yeah, so I'm saying you don't think she lands more than 48?
I don't think so. I think Ribas is going to go in, get in the clinch, and take her down right out of the gates. I think there's a good chance she could get a sub. And honestly, if the fight goes the way I think it will go, I'm more worried about Ribas getting more than 69.5 just from ground and pound and controlling. I think she's going to be very motivated to get this fight to the ground and dominate on top. So I don't know. It may not be as easy as I think it could be, but I don't know. I think that's going to be her game plan. I think she's going to go out and try to prove a point.
That probably is her game plan. I'm just relying on Angela Hill's takedown defense, honestly. But you're right. I mean, it's possible. 69.5 is a lot, though. Like, that's a lot of, because if she takes her down and she's throwing significant strikes on the ground, 69.5 of them, that's enough room that lets Angela Hill scramble out.
Yeah, I'm going less. I mean,
yeah,
either way, but let's put it this way: if Hill goes over 47.5, that means she probably is winning the fight.
Yeah,
and I don't think that's going to happen. So I'm going to go less.
I 100% agree with you there, except I do think Angela Hill wins the fight. So to your point, Dan, if you're going to play this monkey knife fight line, the question is if Angela Hill wins, you go more. If she loses, you go less. So, and if you want to play this line with free money, go to playmkf.com/wewantpicks and use promo code WWP with your first deposit, and they will instantly match up to $100. So if you deposit $100, you will have $200 5 seconds later. If you deposit $40, you will have $80 5 seconds later. Take that free money that they gave you, play this line, and see what happens.
Jacob has done it. He's got like 7 different burner accounts, so he got a free 100 every time, and then he tries to cash out right away. It hasn't worked yet, but one of these times he's going to get it.
He's going to sneak it past. Next up at UFC Vegas 26, we have Ben Rothwell versus Philipe Lins. Another battle of the Titans. Ben Rothwell is a giant slug. Huge sloth of a man. He's not fast. This doesn't bode well for, I was going to call Ben Rothwell Big Don. He kind of looks like Big Don, but you called him a big sloth of a man. So I might stay away from that.
I thought you were going to say he's like,
sorry, Big Don. Sorry, Big Don. Go ahead.
Well, he's a massive human being. He knows how to use his wrestling and his size, but Philipe Lins is no bum himself. So I am not going to use the words tricky or interesting because I actually think I'm pretty clear on what's going to happen here. But Jacob, I'll let you go first since you were about to insult your good personal friend.
I was going to say your friend asked for a shout out. That's how you're going to do it. Like,
I know. I mean, that's a professional MMA fighter. Yeah. If people compare me to Conor McGregor, and I love it. I mean, he's a professional fighter.
Those are opposite ends of the spectrum.
No, this guy just beats the crap. He's got 38 wins as a heavyweight. I mean, that's an incredible comparison to be compared to someone. I mean, I think he looks fine. So, but yeah, I think Philipe Lins if you look at his losses, I think he struggles with speed. I think that's what gets him, especially against Tanner Boser. He really struggled with Tanner Boser's speed. Tanner Boser's a smaller heavyweight. He's not going to have to struggle with speed in this fight against Brendan Rothwell. Brendan Rothwell is tough. He's got a ton of wins. If he hits you, you're probably going to go down, but he's just so sloppy. And I think Lins is more of a technical striker. And I think he wins the fight, but I would not put either one of these people in your line because I have no idea what's going to happen. But, Lins is going to win, I think, but we'll see.
Yeah, I wouldn't touch it for DraftKings either because I think it's low scoring no matter what happens. Because I think Ben Rothwell is a giant man and he's very experienced. He knows how to use his size. And that's exactly what I see him doing here. I see him smothering Philipe Lins. Ben Rothwell's got a chin. He'll take whatever he has to take on the way in and will literally just smother Lins against the cage, take him down if he can, and then control him there. I don't know where Philipe Lins is better. Maybe he has more accurate striking, but I don't think he has more power than Ben Rothwell. He definitely has the youth, but Ben Rothwell's legitimately a decent wrestler, legitimately good on the ground, a decent striker. He looks very sloppy, but he's got power and he makes it work. I think Ben Rothwell, by fight IQ and just sheer size, wins this fight. I'm not putting him in my lineup because he does not score a lot of points, even in a win. I might bet this fight minus 105. That's even money. I might bet this fight. And significant strike line. This is a very well thought out significant strike line because I would actually swap it. I would think Philipe.
I almost said the exact same thing. I would flip flop those.
Yeah, because I think Philipe is probably really busy while Ben is just marching forward to push him against the cage. So I would go less on Ben, more on Philipe. But Dan, what are your thoughts here? How do you see this going? And what are you doing with the free money that Monkey Knife Fight gave you with the WWP promo code you used on your first deposit?
Yeah, it's interesting too. Right before you go, Dan,
2 seconds ago, do you remember Jacob was like, "Do I interrupt you people?"
I know.
Yeah, you guys interrupt to make fun of me. I give you facts. This is stats right here. So the stats updated to 53.5 for Brendan Rothwell, and Lins actually went down to 25.5.
Oh, then I'm definitely going.
Oh, see how you guys love the information? Very interesting.
I'm going under over. I mean, less or more, Jacob. You know what's interesting? I was looking at Ben Rothwell. I'm like, he never gets a lot of points. I'm like, wait a minute. He has an average of almost 70 DraftKings points.
That's a very surprising statistic, Daniel.
Well, I'll tell you why. So I'm like reading his recent fights. I'm like 37, Well, he had 74 against St. Preux. But anyways, you got to start going back to like 2016. I mean, there's some fights in here where you have to go back a ways to get the points. Let's put it that way. So his last couple, I mean, he got 74 against St. Preux. And I don't know. I was very surprised by that. 140. Well, Struve knocked out. Orlovsky 33. So I guess he just always goes to decisions and racks up a decent amount of points. And then if he does win in some other way, he gets some points. But I don't know. I'm not touching this for DraftKings. I think Philipe Lins is going to win the fight. I think he's the younger, faster, just more athletic, better fighter. But Ben Rothwell always finds a way to make things ugly and just close. So I'm not touching for DraftKings. I think Philipe Lins will win the fight. He was on a tear when he was in the PFL prior to coming to the UFC, and he's done well, but I still don't think he showed his true potential. So he's very good. I think it's just a matter of time before he really starts turning it on and really showing what he's capable of. So hopefully it'll be this fight, but Ben Rothwell is just a tough guy to fight and look good against. So I'm not touching for DraftKings. What's that?
Big Don.
Big Don is a tough guy to fight and look good against. I would never fight Big Don, by the way.
I was going to say, imagine you're Jacob's friend. Big Don is like Jacob's buddy who supports the channel. He's a member. He donates. And he's like, hey, Jacob, do me a favor. I watched Dan on The Ultimate Fighter. I'm a fan. Can you guys just shout me out every now and then? And then this is how Jacob does it. Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Yeah, not cool.
It's the highest compliment.
Big Don, I'll tell you right now, you're the man. And honestly, if you want me to whoop Angelo for you for all the things he said about you, Jacob, I wouldn't mess with because, I mean, he's the people.
Well, you couldn't.
I mean, the rest might be contagious.
They would turn against me so quickly. I'd have people show up at my house. I don't want that sort of drama. Angelo, on the other hand, I'll take care of him for you. No
Dan, honestly, you're better looking. You're in better shape. There's no doubt in my mind that I smoke you in a
Keep going. There's a lot more you can cover.
Literally more doubt in my mind. No doubt. None.
That you would what?
I would beat you in a submission grappling match. 100%.
Angelo, we're doing it. We already said this.
I understand. Like, and there's no doubt.
It's going to be. Doubt. I actually have decided now that I'm not going to submit you quickly.
Thank you so much. What an honor. Thank you so much.
I'm going to make
Here's
you
the thing.
work.
While I was wrestling,
literally
and traveling,
vomit
and grappling
from exhaustion. I'm just going to transition. You're going to shoot
He's going to out wrestle you until your kids lose their father.
Jesus.
Who said that?
I don't even know who he's talking to because we both have.
I was going to say, where are you going with this one, Jacob? Pick a side.
The reality is, Dan, you were literally doing ice capades while I was out there on the mat wrestling.
I played ice hockey. Yeah.
Yeah, ice capades. Exactly.
Right. Okay.
And I'm out there wrestling.
Hockey is not a tough sport. You're going to have a lot of tough.
You're alienating. This is your favorite thing to do from now on. Is just alienate population of people.
Arkansas, they
if
can't
you're from
wrestle.
Arkansas, if you're a hockey player in Arkansas,
they're figure skaters. I mean, this guy's just
listen.
Going
if this was
against a lot of tough people.
If this was a fist fight, it would be a different situation. It's not. It's a submission grappling match. We're not going to submit each other.
Angelo, you have about 1 minute of your 260-pound chance of getting a takedown, and I don't think you get it. And if you do, I don't think you do much with it. And then after that, I just dominate.
And I'll tell you this right now, right in the comments, what the odds should be on who submits who. So I'm very interested on how we talked about it in the live stream.
Yeah, but that's such an
How much do you weigh right now? How much do you weigh?
He's like Ben Rothwell. You were right with the Ben Rothwell. He's right there.
I didn't hear it. I heard crickets. How much do you weigh?
265.
265,
so
tipping the heavyweight limit. Okay.
He's Ben Rothwell.
265. I am 6'3". I'm a little soft. I'm not gonna lie.
He's 6'3" on his license. He's like 6'2" in real life.
No, I'm 6.
He hunches
when you
now.
Write down what you
he's
want.
6'1". He's got a hunch now.
All right. So straight up.
I'm about 220. I'll be honest, but that's 220 of just pure athletic, muscular aggression that's ready to
get the baby oil, Dan. Get the baby oil.
Your 265-pound,
no joke,
out of shape ass.
Here's a genuine analysis. You legitimately have some of the best takedown defense in like all of MMA.
Here we go. The cage. There's no cage.
Yeah, there's no cage. There's no takedown defense. Like there's nothing to put your lazy back against. Nothing.
Right. And you're GSP with the timing.
Oh, the speed of the timing. But if you think I'm shooting
out in the open, Angelo's George St. Pierre. He's got that perfect timing.
But that's not how I wrestle.
I'm gonna pull down on your head
like a puma.
Literally. And the fact that you think I can't double leg you, I'm gonna deliberately double leg you.
I would love. 80% of my takedowns are defensive. Please shoot. Please try to shoot a double leg. I would love it. And the fact that you think you could collar tie and it's going to affect my neck. Are you out of your mind? 20 years of collar ties. Yours is going to be the problem. Yours? Come on.
Remember, Angelo's wrestling.
When did you last wrestle? I'm just figuring out.
He wrestles fifth graders on the weekend.
2010, Dan.
He wrestles
my last
graders on the weekend.
Okay,
2010 was the last time you wrestled.
Competitively.
Now 2021.
I've trained and wrestled
minus 11, right? You're what, 36 years old?
What year was your last fight?
2014.
Yeah. All right. Well, I still coach. Anyway, we're way off topic.
He wrestles fifth graders on the weekends. He can handle it.
Some of those kids are high school kids, and I live in Texas, and some of them also play football, so they're huge, Jacob.
Okay. I'm not even going to train for this, Angelo, so I hope
I would love if you didn't. I would love if you didn't.
This is you have to, Dan. You have to for America. You got to do it for America.
This is the Phil Hawes breakdown. I got about 1 minute of Phil Hawes energy. And that's it.
You don't have 1 minute of Phil Hawes anything, bro. I hate to tell you that. You got about 20 minutes of Phil Hawes eating, maybe. I don't even know.
I'll tell you right now. I am a professional.
But my point is that you eat too much. So
Dude, I am a professional. This video went so long, and we're not even talking about these two anymore. But I am. Are
we going to leave this in the specific Rothwell lens breakdown?
I would leave it in, and then I would also cut it out for a separate video.
No, I'm not cutting.
I'm serious. Like the Dan Angelo video. This is what.
We'll come back to it when poor Dan. The problem is, if I beat
set a date and a time, bud.
Here's the conundrum: if I beat Dan, what does that do with the credibility for the channel? Honestly, that's the problem. So. We'll see what happens.
Not going to happen, Angelo.
Back to this fight. I am a professional star. I will grab those wrists. You will never get them back and not be able to do anything. I know how to kill time. I promise you. Anyway, back to this fight.
Kill time. We're doing no time limit submission grappling match.
No. I didn't agree to that. There's a time limit. 100%.
Time limit? What do you mean? You're going to try to win off of stall points?
Yeah, 100%. I'm getting advantage points.
I'm not even interested anymore. That's embarrassing. He just literally said, I'm going to win off of stall points.
What is this, 1990?
That's like a loophole. That's like if I was in this, that's like a loophole I would try to pull at the last minute. Like,
every sport since 1992 MMA has time limits and scoring. Oh, my bad. Get out of here. Anyway, back to this fight.
How about we'll do no time limit, submission grappling match.
No, nobody's going to.
We do a 15-minute round. Dan, how about that?
I will lose from exhaustion. That's not fair. That's not the.
I will lose. My heart will stop, and I will lose
from exhaustion. I'm not going to let that happen.
This guy.
I can get into 6 minutes worth of shit.
There's not enough.
I'm still going to do it just to prove you wrong, but we're not doing some stupid 2-minute rounds where you're like.
That's exactly what I thought we were
eating pancakes in between rounds.
Exactly what I thought we were doing.
Not enough sugar in the world to keep him going.
Dude, no joke. I will call my friends at Naga. We will get on a reality fighting card, and we will be the grappling opener for the reality fighting card. That's what we'll do.
Oh my god!
And there's an unbiased referee. Unbiased. No, but we're gonna do it on a reality fighting card in the ring. So you'll have your stupid kind of thing to put your back on. We will have a
no
referee.
One's gonna answer your calls, dude. I hate to tell you.
All the fighters I put in that cage, they'll make it happen. Anyway, back to this. Okay, back to what we get paid to do, Daniel. I'm the only one going Ben Rothwell. He's a beast of a man. I think the size, fight IQ, experience is just a slow, boring win for Ben Rothwell. But I could be wrong. In my opinion, back to this, if St. Preux didn't beat him, and he could have. St. Preux could have beat him if he turned it on. I just don't see Philipe Lins doing it. I think Ben's just too ugly, as you put it, Dan, in his fight style. He just makes it ugly, holds him against the cage. I'm the only one that feels that way, so we'll see what happens. Next up at UFC Vegas 26, we have the last-minute replacement. And the co-main event, we have Donald Cerrone versus Alex Morono. And Alex Morono is taking this fight on 4 days' notice or something absurd like that. So this is tricky because, and I say tricky a lot, and I didn't realize it until Dan, you pointed it out, but Donald Cerrone was supposed to fight Diego Sanchez. Alex Morono is a much better fighter than Diego Sanchez. But this is on very short notice. Donald Cerrone has a full fight camp. And last time Alex Morono took a fight on this short of notice, he lost to Anthony Pettis. So my pick is Donald Cerrone, and I am factoring in the short notice. And I know in the past we've talked about, well, in the COVID era, short notice fights aren't what they used to be because people are ready. They know for a fact you might get a call any minute of any day. With that being said, this is extremely short notice. As far as I could tell, Alex Morono, it didn't have a fight scheduled. So it's not as if they just moved him up a little earlier. I imagine he wasn't in any sort of real training camp other than some people just sort of live at the gym. With that being said, he is a very good fighter. He's a pretty well-rounded guy. But Donald Cerrone is still Donald Cerrone. It's easy to look at Donald's record and say, okay, he hasn't won a fight in 2 years. It's also easy to be like, oh, it's Donald Cerrone. He could beat anybody. And neither one of those two things are true, right? He can't beat anybody. He is older. His chin is worn out. He's definitely lost a beat there. But yes, he hasn't won a fight in 2 years, but look at who he's fought. He's fought some of the best to do it. And first of all, I thought he beat Pettis, but he's fought some of the best to do it. The draw, I thought he beat Pettis, and then he had the draw against Nico Price. So it's just, the record's a little deceiving. With that being said, I think Donald Cerrone's striking is better. I don't think Alex Morono is going to pose a real takedown threat. I think he's going to come out guns blazing because he knows his cardio might be an issue. And I think Donald will weather that storm, then slowly pick up the pace and start to pick apart Alex Morono and get it done. And I am taking Donald Cerrone, even though he's $8,400, which is a lot. I do have him in my lineup because I think he will get it done. And I think the short notice fight is on my side. Jacob, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think that we're going to see the Donald Cerrone of old. Leading up to this, he was supposed to fight Diego Sanchez, and maybe Angelo, you can speak more on their whole falling out with the Jackson Wink and stuff. There's some really bad blood between Cerrone and Diego. And if you watch one of these promo videos, and I know the promo videos are supposed to hype up the fighter like this, he's training hard or whatever. If you watch the way Donald was training for this fight to fight Diego Sanchez, he looked like a animal training. Like this, really, he was really excited and said, I want to get him to a point where he's about to give up, and then I stop, and then I start beating on him more. He just wanted to beat the living crap out of Diego Sanchez. And I think the fight dropping is going to piss him off even more, as far as I want to get in here and really show what I would have done to Diego Sanchez, because there's that whole falling out. I don't know the whole story, but they have bad blood. So I like Donald to come out, look like the Donald we know Donald can be, and dominate this fight. He's not in my lineup, but like I said, if weird things happen, there's a drop, $8,400. I think that's great value for him in this fight, and I think he wins the fight. And on this, more or less, I think it's a striking battle the whole way. I think Donald can definitely outstrike him 2-1. So I think this would be a more and more situation for me.
Yeah, I agree with the more and more line here because I think it stays striking the whole time. Cowboy, though, is not particularly a busy striker. He's a slow starter to begin with, but I do think he'll pick up the pace as this goes. And I agree where I think Cowboy has a little more pep in his step. I don't know if it's because he was fighting Diego or because he is on this winless streak. And I think he realizes like, oh boy, if I want to continue to fight and make some real money doing this, I have to win a fight. Like he has to. If he loses this, they must cut him, right? Like, I hope they don't, but like, then what was that, 6 fights in a row or something crazy?
Yeah, it probably depends on how he loses, right? If he gets starched, then he's probably done. But if it's another one of those typical Donald, tough, what the decision, split decision, I mean, he's such a fan favorite, but eventually you do have to win. And then the fans will forget it.
And I think he's at that point. I think he realizes like, I have to win. Like I have to win the fight.
And do you know the story behind the camps and stuff? I didn't know if you did or not, as far as why.
Well, they were teammates and training partners at Jackson Wink. I don't remember why Diego left. I do remember him leaving. And when he left, he tried to start up his own thing. And I think he tried to take some people with him, but that was like 15 years ago. That was a very long time ago. So I'm surprised that there's still sort of ill will.
Oh, if you watch the stuff leading up, he's still like, I hate Diego Sanchez and want to hurt him.
Yeah. I don't know what that's from. I know obviously Diego was pulled off the card because Diego's life coach / manager is like, has a couple screws loose and pissed off the wrong people
against the UFC.
Yeah, it pissed off the wrong people and it just went wrong. There's they released a whole audio clip of Diego released it of a voice of a conversation, a recording of a voice conversation between Diego's life coach and the UFC's lawyers and Sean Shelby, who's the matchmaker. And it was one of the fact that Diego released it thinking like, oh, this vindicates me. See, we're not crazy. And if you listen to it, it's like, no, you guys are crazy. Like that was a crazy conversation. So that whole thing.
It was weird. He didn't like, he released it like, oh, look, we got him. And it's like, no, you called up basically threatening them. And they're like, hey, listen, if you're not ready to fight and you have issues, we'll just pull you. And then he's like,
and that's what it was.
No, he doesn't have issues, but down the road, we need the records. But he might have issues. It was so strange and just clearly like they're plotting something. I'm sure the UFC legal team was like,
they're definitely plotting something. And just to summarize it real quick, if you don't want to listen to it, basically Diego's life coach called like the UFC medical department or the doctors, whatever, and said, I want every single one of Diego's medical records. And then started saying, because he may have injuries and I want them documented. And then the legal team on the recorded call was like, hey, we heard you're asking for these medical records. Like, why? What is going on? And then it turned into this whole thing where I'm not saying Diego's hurt, but he is hurt. And I'm not saying we're going to sue, but he's been hurt for a while. So the UFC was like, yeah, okay, goodbye. We're not dealing with this. The fact that you just told me Diego Sanchez may have brain issues and may have wrist issues and knee issues, how could we possibly in good conscience let him go out there and fight? He's not fighting. We're pulling him. So that's why he's off the card. That's a disaster. But back to this fight, Dan, do you think the short notice is a factor here? We've talked about it in the past, but Alex Morono took a short notice fight during COVID and lost.
Yeah, I think short notice is always a factor. You just never know what they're doing, though, right? Like, there's very different types of short notice. I would always think that if you're willing to take it on 4 days' notice, you're in somewhat of shape, or you're just like, I don't know, you want a payday, and you know the UFC is going to be happy with you, I guess. But I'm taking Cerrone here, $8,400. He's older, but he's 38 years old. I mean, there's guys that are still doing it. And like you said, his last 4 losses are the absolute killers. McGregor, Gaethje, Tony Ferguson, like it's like murderer's row are his losses. So, I like him in this fight on short notice, or I like him in this fight going against Morono on short notice. I am a little nervous about it, though, just because, again, he's 38 and Morono's not a slouch. But 4 days notice for his opponent and him training the way he is. Jacob, that was actually good insight because I didn't watch the hype videos or anything like that. So to know he's really motivated for the fight against Diego, he's got to be in good shape. I'm going to take Cerrone on this for the 8,400. I'm surprised he's only 8,400. I mean, I'm surprised
because he's old and he's winless in 2 years. But yeah,
was this line set before Diego dropped or no?
No, they didn't set this until
right. Okay, that makes sense. Point. I was like, him versus Diego, he should have been a 9,000.
Yes,
and
that's a very good
plus
point.
Probably right.
That's a very good point. Yeah, this was all set after that drop.
Are you sure it wasn't 9,000 and they changed it?
Okay. So,
Angelo, can you please explain?
I don't even need to go into the spiel. They know it. What I will say, one more thing, what I'll say is if you take a young, healthy Donald Cerrone and you put him up against a full camp, young, healthy Alex Morono, I think Donald Cerrone wins. I think he's better everywhere and he wins. So Donald's a little older. He's a little worn out, but Morono's taking a short notice. I think that equalizes it. I think that puts him back to sort of, he's
doing hand signals again. He's going to start counting again.
Give some youth. I'm Italian. That's what happens.
Yeah, he's up here, so then he goes up to here, and then
it gives some youth to Donald. It takes away some of that youth from Alex. So I think that sort of equalizes things here, and all else being equal, Donald Cerrone wins. So I am going with Donald Cerrone. I think the style is a solid matchup. Obviously, he's older. His chin could be an issue, but we just have to trust that it's still there. So this will be a fun one. I'm glad they made it work. Significant strike line. We talked about it a few times. I'm going to go less Cerrone, more Morono. Cerrone is a slow starter, and I bet he doesn't throw a lot in the first round. So I'm going less Cerrone because it's a slow start, and then more Morono because this will probably be a 3-round fight. Next up at UFC Vegas 26, we have the new main event of the evening. We have Marina Rodriguez versus Michelle Karate Hottie Waterson. And this is a fun one. This really should be a fun fight. 2 primary strikers for the most part. Very different styles, very different striking sort of abilities, but they are 2 primary strikers. Marina knocked out your girl, Jacob. Just absolutely knocked out Amanda Ribas. Michelle Waterson has beat some of the best to do it. I think this is a much, much, much closer fight than the odds say and then DraftKings say. Dan, what are your thoughts here? Do you agree that this is closer than the odds and the DraftKings prices?
Yeah, I think this is going to be, this is one of those main events where I've gotten away from taking both lately, but this might be one where you take both, especially in a single entry cash game lineup. I think this is going to be a full on striking match, probably a ton of points from both. I will say though, Marina Rodriguez has more finishing power, so she is somewhat live for a finish. I think she's the pick. I'm going to take her. I just think, if you look at who Rodriguez beat, right? She beat Ribas. That was a huge upset. but she also beat Tecia Torres. Like, that's a legitimate win against a very, very good striker in the division. And where she struggled was against grapplers. You know, people were trying to Calvillo and Carla Esparza. Like, they gave her trouble. I don't see Waterson being that type of matchup unless she switches something up and comes up with a new game plan. Like, I think they're both going to go out there and bang. And I think it's going to be a ton of DraftKings points. I just think Marina Rodriguez hits a little harder, is a little bit better. I think she's going to win the fight. But from a DraftKings standpoint, man, $7,000 is pretty cheap for a 5-round fight on somebody else. So I don't know. I'm considering doubling it up. Ever since I had a few 6-0 lineups, I've kind of strayed away from that, but I think that might be the right thing to do in a cash game lineup, at least.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting how cheap Waterson is, but I see it a little different. So it definitely striker versus striker. I completely agree that Marina Rodriguez has the finishing ability, right? She has more power in her hands. Like, she can definitely finish this fight. But I think Michelle Waterson is the more well-rounded fighter. And you mentioned Marina struggles with strikers. I think Michelle Waterson can make the adjustment.
Wrestlers.
Yeah, wrestlers. I'm sorry. I think Michelle Waterson can make the adjustment and can wrestle. She has wrestled in the past. She's won fights doing that. And I think she has more experience. I think she has the higher fight IQ, and she has more ways to win. I see her winning by either keeping the distance, that weird karate style striking that we just talked about with Wonder Boy. It's a similar type style. She can make it weird and stay distance and jump in and jump out and win a decision with point striking, or she will grapple. And we've seen her grapple in the past. So I do have Michelle Waterson winning this fight. I think the experience, the fight IQ, and the ability to wrestle if she needs it is how she will win. And I have her in my DraftKings lineup because, as you said, $7,000, you just can't go wrong. I mean, she's not going to get knocked out in very quickly. She's even in the fight she loses, she's incredibly tough. She's incredibly durable. She continues to move forward, continues to fight, and she'll put some points up. So the strike line is, man, that's a solid strike line. I'm going to go more on Waterson for sure. I don't know what I'm going to do with Marina Rodriguez yet, but Jacob, what are your thoughts here? Who do you think wins, and what do you think of that strike line?
Yeah, I think me and you we had talked Monday about this fight leading up to this card before we really started digging into it. And I think that Marina's going to run through Michelle, but at the same time, you mentioned how tough Michelle is. She hasn't been finished by a TKO since 2009. And she's fought pretty much everyone in that division that can finish people, with Rose and Tecia and Joanna, Carla Esparza. So she's fought all those people and fought them tough. So I think that Marina is going to run through. I think that she's going to win the fight. But at $7,000, like we've talked about earlier, I don't like a lot of underdogs on this card. It was a struggle to find a lock of the week, even though, Neal Magny is definitely going to dominate the fight. So, and this is one of those, you mentioned it, Rodriguez beat Ribas. I got to find some revenge for Amanda. I got to do something for Amanda to get revenge for her. So I'm putting Michelle Waterson in my lineup to get revenge on that Amanda Ribas loss. But I think Marina wins the fight. But I just think Michelle is tough enough that, and like you mentioned, her grappling ability is pretty good. So if she finds herself on top in a scramble, she can submit people. So I like Michelle to be able to withstand, to go the whole 5 rounds, even if she loses. I think this is one of those rare times. Usually I'm very confident, and I think every single one of my underdogs is going to win the fight. This is the first time where I'm picking somebody I think is going to lose, but scoring enough points to be worth the value. So I think at $7,000, she's worth the value. I don't think she wins the fight. So that means she's probably going to win the fight at this point.
All right. So you literally talked out of both sides of your mouth there, but you're saying Marina Rodriguez.
No, I said, I mean, you guys do. Every single week, you guys have a fight where you're like, I think this guy's going to win, but I'm going to pick
use the word like
value.
Starch. I think she starches Michelle Waterson.
No, I think she runs through. I said earlier in the week, before we talked, before we dug into it, me and you had a conversation where I said she runs through it, and you were like, I don't know. You might want to look into it a little bit more. So I looked into it, and I was like, yeah, Michelle never really gets finishes by TKOs, KOs. That's where I changed. That's why we do all this in-depth research. And I changed it to where, for the first time in my life, I'm putting somebody in my lineup who I don't think is going to win the fight, but score enough points for the $7,000 value.
Well,
can you explain that to me again one more time?
I appreciate.
So basically,
that.
what I think is going to happen is Marina is going to. I think she's going to run through Michelle, but I think Michelle is tough enough She's not going to get taken.
I got you. I got you the first time, Jacob. Angelo just over here abusing his moderator privileges.
I'm not. I didn't mute him. People were like legitimately upset that I did that. But anyway, I appreciate, Jacob, that you take my feedback to heart. You might want to consider subscribing. I do this every single week. We provide some valuable insight and become a member and support the channel. And members.
I am a member. There's only one person up here that's not a member.
That is true, Dan. And
I sent you $100 on a whatever super chat last week.
Not what a member is. Explain what a member is.
Well, take 5 of it and make me a member.
No, that's not how it works, Dan.
I didn't want to admit that I didn't know where to click to be a member, so I just sent you.
Well, Angelo will explain
the super chat because it was easier.
Angelo will explain it right now.
Explain us how to do it, Angelo.
I'm in the middle of it. If you want to be a member of the channel, click the join button.
No, but actually explain it.
Click the join button below, and you can become a member.
And tell them about the if
don't
they
be a member. We don't need more members.
Tell them about the league.
I don't want members.
Tell them about the league.
Support the channel.
Tell them about the league. I'm serious.
I don't
tell them about the
members.
league with the 15 and the 30.
We are running out of money. I can't continue to give members money. Don't do it. The 15. League.
Oh, man, now he's got to edit this out.
He's not going to edit. He knows better.
Free DraftKings league. Check the description below. Join the DraftKings league. It costs you nothing. Compete in the contest every single week. It costs you nothing. Take our advice. Look at our lineups. Make your own decisions. Build a lineup. If you are a subscriber to the channel and you win the league, you win the contest that week, we will give you $15 cash money, Venmo, PayPal, however you take your money. If you are a member and you win, you will get $30 cash money, however you take your money.
If they want Bitcoin, will you do that?
$15 worth or $30 worth if you're a member? Absolutely.
What about Doge?
Doge?
Anyway, if you want to play the Monkey Knife Fight daily fantasy prop games, check out playmkf.com/wewantpicks. It is very easy and it is a ton of fun. You essentially say, do you think fighter A will land more or less significant strikes than the line that they set? And do you think fighter B will do the same? You pick your more, you pick your less, and you can triple your money. If you use promo code WWP on your first deposit, they will instantly match up to $100.
Angelo, hold on. Are you down with WWP?
Oh my God. Anyway, that is our full breakdown of UFC Vegas 26. Check out our full DraftKings breakdown with our lineups. Comment down below who you think wins. If you are a member, you can now use emojis. We have custom emojis for members. If you're commenting from a computer, check out those emojis and comment down below. We will see you on Saturday. Before you go, I just want to give a sincere thank you to all of our members and supporters. I just filmed a video like 2 hours ago, thanking all of you and walking through all the perks that you get for being a member, and new members signed up. So we're going to go ahead. I'm going to thank you again and walk through those benefits very quickly. So specific thanks to Ansi Music, Chris Trizano, David Ramon, Chris Chori, Donchichi, Jesse Correra, Lapuzza, Joe Todoro.
The live chat crew, the live stream.
Joe Todoro, Logan Garrick, X Sweet Spot X, Aaron Reynolds, Brent Hinson, Jill Loads, Jordan Burgard.
That's Big Don, baby.
Jacob's
Big
buddy.
Don.
Big Don.
And Juan Valdez. Sincere thank you to all of you guys. We appreciate it. Anybody out there who is not a member, click the join button below. It supports us. And in return, we'll hook you up with a Dan Kramer UFC Tops card, as long as those last, and our members who compete in our
flying like hotcakes,
and they're flying off the shelves. Nobody bought these things for 10 years, and now all of a sudden we're buying them up, giving them out to you. People have no idea what
they're like Pokemon cards.
The value is skyrocketing.
They're very popular all of a sudden again
because we're buying them all up. But any of our members who compete in our free DraftKings contest, you will win $30 if you win. If you are not a member, you can still win, but you will win $15. All right. Members get 30. Everybody else gets 15. Thank you so much. We're continuing to roll out new benefits. Members, when you're commenting on these videos, check out the emojis. You now have special emojis that only you can use. Thank you very much. It is genuinely appreciated. Thank you.